neighbors and friends, thank you so much for coming out. We're going to do the next City Council Candidate Forum. We have two of our three candidates ready to share their vision and their hopes and their dreams for our great city. And I get to moderate this one again. But again, I just want to thank the Dallas County East Democratic Club for working to put this together. And those of you who are watching this at home, we meet the last Wednesday of every month at Martinez Restaurant at 7 p.m. So come on out and join us. But thank you guys. We have Jennifer Vidler and Noe Villarreal who've come out and are going to be answering some questions for us. So thank you guys. And how did the coin flip go? Who's going first?
Noe's.
Okay. And so we're going to start off with a 2-minute intro. And so if you would, introduce yourself to the community, please.
My name is Noe Villarreal. I've lived here in Mesquite since 1985. I have worked with TechSod in the early 80s through mid-90s. I had my own company, Roadway Engineering. I still have it. And for the past 2 years and a half, I've been working with the city of Dallas. I have attempted to volunteer or help out with the city and the school district. In my early years over here, I was an advocate and wanted to present my point of view. And not that I want to be negative, but I didn't feel that I was contributing. At the end of the day, today we're living a very monumentous time to where our city council has allowed the individual district members to residents to vote for their own district representative. And that has really allowed me to be here and try to promote to the rest of the community that we're living in a monumental area, monumental time, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm hoping that I can represent the city from the standpoint that we are growing, and more importantly, our transportation infrastructure is in dire need. I'm an engineer by trade, and that's one of the many things that prompt me to run for council, from the standpoint that I feel that our needs as councilmen, even though we voted for a bond program, are not really representative of the community, but I want to see how this is working out. With no further ado, I'm here asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vidler, your introduction.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Vidler. I've lived in Mesquite all my life. I've learned volunteering from my parents. I worked in the city on the Board of Adjustments for 6 years, 5 years on planning and zoning. I'm a small business owner. I left high school, I went in the military, United States Air Force, where I am a pneumatic and hydraulic system specialist. I did not pursue that when I got out, but I enjoy working in my city. I agree with No on a couple items. I don't think a lot of our community was included on boards and things like they should have been. With an engineering background, he would have been ideal on things like Board of Adjustments and planning and zoning. I don't know why some people were overlooked. I happen to agree with him there. Single member districts, we had single member where you had to live in the district that you were running for, and we had 2 at-large seats. So we did have where we could represent an area. I feel like the single member district kind of choked the voice of all citizens. Instead of earning the vote of everyone, you earn the vote of one area and then the mayor. I'm kind of pulled on both directions on this, but I feel like the citizens' voices were stifled. I've owned a business in Mesquite for, well, more than 20 years, a small business. I have volunteered. I'm on the MISD board for career technology education because, face it, not all of our kids are going to end up in college. We have to have choices. I'm on Read, Play, Talks advisory board because we are at an extreme deficit when it comes to our children reading. I'm on the Heart board. 75150 and 149 were tops in heart attacks. Tops. We have met the criteria, and we are now a heart-safe community. We were just given that.
Thank you. No worries. All right, so Ms. Vidler is going to answer this question first, but here it is. A candidate in this race has spent $30,000 of his own money just in this cycle alone so far. He's been forced to recuse himself for financial conflict of interest more than all sitting council members combined. At what point is a person seeking office too conflicted financially to serve the community effectively? Ms. Vidler?
I'm gonna attempt to be as politically correct as I can be. When the needs of a developer outweigh the needs of a citizen, you need to step down. You are not doing what you were elected to do. And when the biggest part of public hearings you spend in the back room, but yet you want to chastise your fellow council members because you feel like they handled the planned development poorly, you are just as guilty. In my opinion, when you try to buy an election, it does not behoove the citizens of Mesquite. It's not representative of those that go out and vote. And I'm disappointed, and that's 99% of the reason that I'm running is because we are not properly represented by our incumbent.
Mr. Villarreal, I'll repeat. A candidate in this race, not yourself, has spent $30,000 of his own money just in this cycle alone so far. He's been forced to recuse himself for financial conflict of interest more than all sitting council members combined. At what point is a person seeking office too conflicted financially to serve the community effectively?
I am happy for him and or her, whoever the individual is, but according to our council, it's him. And unfortunately, in my culture, we have to live by the laws. And we might not agree with them, but I don't have an issue. Best of luck. But the citizens of our district, or whoever he's choosing to represent, should have an issue. If we don't agree, then let's step up as voters of our community and say we need change. We've progressively, progressively changed some of these things, and I have noticed that I'm continuously receiving knocks on the door and pamphlets and so on and so forth in the mail, and it just makes me kind of scratch my head on this and say, wow, do they pay that much here? And of course they don't. But the fact of the matter is that one of the things that really annoyed me was when I got one of those robocalls and asking me to vote for them. But again, best of luck. They have a real need to move forward, and he's playing by the rules, so therefore I'm accepted. But one thing for sure, I'm here to represent the citizens of my district. Secondly, I'm here to represent the city of Mesquite. And you can rest assured that I would bring it up if elected and try to modify that and close that loophole. There isn't really a reason for somebody in local politics to be spending that much money. Thank you.
Thank you. So District 3, the new district that's going to start in November, has some of the fewest parks in the city of all districts. How would you advocate for more parks generally, but also in the existing development agreements that are going to be built up over the next few years? And this is to Noe, Mr. Villarreal first.
I'm glad you bring that question because I had 4 kiddos. I was soccer coach, I was basketball coach, and I was continuously wondering. I had that 80, 635, that corner of Mesquite where I lived at, and I'm continuously questioning. And that was one of the reasons back in the 80s and 90s I was trying to become more involved to say, what is happening to this district and why are we not being allocated the proper recognition and funding? I would study and review and see why the Parks Department and some of the board have chosen to, in my words, ignore that corner of Mesquite. I represent that area right there, plus obviously um, a good other portion of it. But again, I'm not very comfortable when the distribution of funds and budget and so on and so forth, regardless of what the budgets might reflect, are not equally distributed, in my opinion. Not knowing very closely of what is happening, I am first and foremost here to represent District 3 if elected. And secondly, I would have to listen to the citizens. I would have to listen to our people in parks departments and the rest of the city community and find out why the inequality and unbalance. My kiddos grew up, we had to have soccer practice and we had to have basketball and so on and so forth in areas that were not competitive to what we feel or we saw in other areas of Mesquite. With that, I thank you, and I'm sure to bring that up if elected. Thank you.
Ms. Vidler, this district is going to have some of the fewest parks in the city. How would you advocate for more park space in existing development agreements and in future ones that may occur in your district?
In our area, we have 3 really large parks. We have several that we partner with the schools on, smaller parks. Our budget that comes out of Parks and Recreation falls short every year. We have approximately 73 parks in the entire city, and about a third of them need updating and repair. So it's not just a District 3 issue, it's for all districts. Out in 6, they have relatively nothing that amenities for them. Our planned developments have included green space. The problem is when we do a planned development, it's done initially, things are signed off on before all the information is in. I can give you an example out there off of Heartland Parkway area. On the other side is not Mesquite. On this side is Mesquite. When the plan development was agreed upon, the flood report was not done. Developers are not going to be without their houses. So when the flood report comes in and it lessens the park area, there's no contingency. There was nothing put in place that, well, if the flood report, the impact comes in and it's this, we're going to have to relook at this. They're still going to get the houses they want. You won't get the green space you want. We need to close and fix some of the way the planned developments are done. I'll wait for that other part on the other question.
Sure. Thank you. So it's often been said that partisan politics doesn't apply to municipal elections. However, we've seen in several instances of late where city councils have made decisions based on personal, political, or religious beliefs, and not necessarily what's just good public policy. Most recently, a city council in Plano was voting on pulling funds from a rape crisis center because the center provided the morning after pill to victims. And even here in our own city council, we've seen members of the council use the equal employment opportunity vote as a way to turn in a misleading and divisive restroom bill debate. What is your opinion on making decisions on the city council based on personal, political, or religious beliefs? And this question is going to start to Ms. Vidler.
Do you want me to stand? Or is it
Yeah, I think projection's better if you stand,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. People seem to lose track of your constitutional rights. I'm conservative. I've been asked at the door what party I was. I have never, in everything I have ever volunteered in, has Democrat or Republican been a deciding factor for me. It's people. And that's what it should be. I was asked about how I felt about the, during the Great Gay Pride Month. They have constitutional rights also. What makes them any different than anybody else? I think that people tend to push your beliefs off onto somebody else. We all live here. We all pay taxes. City Hall was not opened especially for one group or another. It was open, period. There was nothing paid out of city funds to support any gathering. I think if people would back up a little bit and consider this step back, and you make decisions on a constitutional level, these are rights afforded to everyone. A lot of this argument would stop. There's too much special interest going on our city council.
Thank you. Mr. Villarreal, would you like the question again?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll shorten it. Here on our own city council, we saw members use the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which says we have to hire and fire based on competency, not on who you love or your sexual identity or any of those things, or gender identity. But we had some council members who turned that into our version of the restroom bill debate. What is your opinion on making decisions on the city council based on personal, political, or religious beliefs?
That's a very loaded question. That I would leave to the politicians and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, I'm single-minded. I'm a Catholic, but at the same time, I need to recognize what our Constitution says and what our federal regulations say. I would gladly open myself and discuss it and debate it, etc. But at the end of the day, we are representatives of every single resident, citizen that lives in our district. And I would sure hate to leave others or some of them out with this in mind. I'm open-minded. I'm not going to place my beliefs on the line and discriminate or leave out our residents who are tax-paying. So therefore, I will cut it short and say at this stage, I'm not very well informed, but if it does come, I would hope that I can see right through the smoke and mirrors and everything being presented and making it an issue and try to look through it. And at the end of the day, try to make common sense out of these things. But more importantly, I would first and foremost stick with what are the laws? What are the laws of our state and what are our federal regulations laws? And obviously those have to be followed first. We're not here to make new rules, new laws, but we're here to fall in place with whatever regulations and laws are in our Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. This will be our last question, and then we'll move into closing statements. In Mesquite's rich 140-year history, we've elected 1 Latino and 0 African American city council members. Moving to single-member districts was an attempt to open the doors of City Hall to all candidates and make running for office cheaper and more accessible. Would you pledge to defeat any attempt to change the city charter back to citywide elections? And if so, why? If not, why? And this is for Mr. Villarreal first.
I'm glad to hear that question because I stand here because we are moving forward here in Mesquite. And I'm real appreciative of our honorable mayor who has implemented and opened the doors for representation. When I went out there to register and to declare my candidacy at City Hall, it was nice to see a whole variations of our citizens and residents stepping forward and wanting to be part of this process. I think the doors are open, and to step backwards is not going to be well received by our citizens. I expect record number of votes, which is going to be a reflection of our citizens saying we are in a new era. We are being heard. And that's where I'm here, to state to the residents of Mesquite, the citizens of Mesquite, and even our young generation saying this is a new time. This is a new opportunity. So therefore, I would not support anything that will send us 2 steps backwards when we've taken a giant leap forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vidler, would you like the question again?
Go ahead.
Yeah. In Mesquite's 140-year rich history, we've elected 1 Latino and 0 African American city council members. Moving to single-member districts was an attempt to open the doors of City Hall to all candidates and make running for office cheaper and more accessible. Would you pledge to defeat any attempt to revert the city charter back to citywide elections? And whatever your answer, why?
Okay. No, I would not pledge to do that. I would listen to citizens because I've heard a lot of them complain and are unhappy about the fact that they don't get a vote for everyone. I am in District 3. It starts over at Beltline. It's the south side of Town East, down Skyline, down clear to Military, and a small section right there by Walmart on the south side of 80, that small piece. Every area I have walked in has black, white, Hispanic. I have some Asian. I even have Indian. Every area from Beltline over. No one can look at me and tell me that this city is not diverse. 100 years ago, no, we were not, but we are. I think that's what's prompted people to step up and run. I do. Not necessarily single-member districts. Like I said, we had districts that you had to live in order to run. We just had two at large and then your mayor. But I do think that you should have to earn the vote of everyone. No lives at one side of 3, I live at the other side of 3. Everything I have ever done in the city has encompassed all people, not just a small faction. It relates to everyone. I try to help everyone.
Thank you. And we're going to do a quick follow-up. The fact that the single-member district charter reform was passed 70 to 30, how would you respond to that, Ms. Fiddler?
I think that a lot of people, what I heard after when they realized that you could only vote for one and the mayor, I heard a lot of people say they did not understand the wording on the charter. The biggest thing is listening to people. If people are unhappy with it, you need to talk to them and find out why. I do believe, just like everybody is talking about the income tax one for fall that's going to be on November's ballot, they're telling people to read carefully so that you understand, because the wording is somewhat, it's hard to understand for some people. So make sure you read it well, because if you don't want taxes, it's a yes. If you don't want to ever come back to income tax here in Texas, that's what it is. I think a lot of people just did not understand how it was presented, and I was told by a lot of my clients that come in the store, they're a little older, they felt that the city should have done a better job at explaining things to people.
Thank you. Mr. Villarreal, do you care to comment on whether the city charter reform vote on single-member districts that turned out to be 70% in favor, 30% against, is indicative that citizens didn't understand the question asked?
A lot of times when I go to vote, and I've got a college education, I read a lot of specs and the plans and so on and so forth, and believe me when I say, and I can assure you, that there's more than 50% of the citizens do not quite understand when our politicians and those who set up the write-ups use double negative and triple negative, and you don't really understand what you're voting for, and somebody comes over and holds your hand and tries to lead you into this decision-making. If elected, and I don't have a problem, 70-30, but the fact is, if it's not clear, precise, and to where a second grader can understand this, why are we misleading the public? Why are we misleading the citizens? I don't have a problem, like I say, at 70-30, but I would have a problem how this was presented and how they were trying to avert or mislead the public. That's what I have an issue with. Because at the end of the day, we have to understand and we have to accept our citizens' voice when they go out to the polls and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to move into closing statements of the candidates, and they're going to have 2 minutes. And Ms. Vidler is up first.
Well, I'm like Kim. My phone number's out there for everybody. I have been working to help citizens here in Mesquite for more than 30 years. Not on city council. I was planning and zoning commissioner up till a month ago, and people would still come to my shop or call me with problems and incidents, and I would help them in getting their problems taken care of. I would lead them to places where they knew how to navigate our webpage, for the city and where they knew where to go to get their problems taken care of, which people to go to complain. I think we need change. I have worked really, really hard to see Mesquite become a better place. And I'll continue to, whether I win or lose, I'll continue to. I would ask for your vote. I think I'm qualified. I would listen to you. I'm not going to spend $36,000 to buy a seat. I'm going to get out there, and I'm going to walk, and I'm going to talk, and I'm going to let people see what I'm about. That's what I can do. I've answered questions at doors. I knock doors constantly, every free minute I have. I still sit on boards. That's where I was this morning. So I'm lucky I'm here this afternoon, but my opponent, I don't know Noe very well, but we seem to have a mutual respect for each other. Our other opponent, you can't talk to him. There's no listening. There's no representation. That's why I'm running. So I'm hoping to earn your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Villarreal, your 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you, Ms. Bittler, and she is correct. We've been having a fantastic relationship. Our third appointed, Robert, I supported him when he ran for state. I supported him when he ran for our district and representative. But then today, we're in a new era. And I am part of the system that the city of Mesquite is starting to implement. We have Ms. Bittler as a female running, and we have record number of women running for office. We have record number of minorities running for office, and I am part of that equation. In terms of, I've always felt that the unfortunate thing is that we view our politicians sometimes in the negative. We agree with them, or negative if we don't agree. But the fact of the matter is that they're trying their hardest, and they're volunteers. And those, in my opinion, are representing the voice of their constituents. I am running because I'm trying to represent the voice of the District 3 residents and constituents. That's why I'm here. I feel that we have apartment people that are underrepresented. I feel that the senior citizens in our community have a lot to offer. A lot of, in my opinion, nationwide, they're the most sought to volunteers. We have to also tap into our younger generation and express to them that this Mesquite is a place that you can make home just like your parents have. And I would like to see some mentoring. There's so many other things, including transportation, parks department, and the police, fire, etc. I live here in Mesquite, and I wouldn't change it. I've adored the city of Mesquite, and it's been great to my family, and it's been great to a lot of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. And guys, help me thank the candidates. This isn't easy. So we're going to do the picture real quick, and then we'll kick off the next race in 2